Hey guys, welcome to Cooking with Stephen and Jacqueline. Today we're going to make a homemade bread that will turn out to be fluffy and light, using oil instead of lard or butter. So let's sit back and enjoy the ride.
So folks, let's go make our easy homemade bread, and here's our ingredients.
Today you will need all-purpose flour, yeast, brown sugar, water, oil, salt, butter, and half cup of flour for rolling and dusting.
Well folks, it's time to start making our bread. First off, we want to add 2 cups of warm water to a bowl, approximately about 110 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. You do not want to go above that, otherwise it will kill the yeast. Next, you want to add 2 tablespoons of instant yeast to your warm water. Now I'm going in with a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. You can also use white sugar. The sugar will also help to activate that yeast. Now you want to give this a good old whisk and make sure that everything is properly well incorporated. Now that those ingredients are combined, it's time to get yourself a kitchen towel, cover it down and let it stand for 10 minutes for that yeast to activate. After 10 minutes, you can see how our yeast has bloomed nicely, and this is what we are looking here for, folks. Now we're going to add 2 teaspoons of sea salt. That's just to bring out the flavor of the bread. And instead of using lard or butter, I'm going in with 2.5 tablespoons of oil, a vegetable oil. Well, it's time for the last ingredient, which is all-purpose flour. Here I have 4 cups of flour, which I'm going to add into the wet mixture, followed by another 2 cups. You want to properly incorporate the first 4 cups of flour into the wet ingredients. When the dough becomes sticky, shake out the excess dough from the whisk and now start to add your remaining 2 cups gradually into that mixture. All I'm doing here is just taking my hand and gently incorporating that dry flour into the sticky dough. And as a little reminder, according to the altitude you live at in your country, you may have to use a little more flour or a little less. Here I'm adding the last of the flour. I'm just going to continue kneading this until the flour gets properly well incorporated into that dough. And this will take a few minutes. Now it's time to dust your counter with some flour and place the dough there to give it its final knead. The dough may seem sticky at first, but after a few minutes of kneading, it will all come together nicely. After about 10 to 12 minutes of kneading, here you can see we have gotten a nice smooth dough, and this is the consistency that we are looking for. Now that the dough is all nice and smooth, we just want to form it into a ball and add about a teaspoon of oil to a bowl and coat that bowl with it. This will help to prevent the dough from drying out and cracking on the outside. So our dough is all ready for proofing. You want to cover this with a damp kitchen towel and place it into a warm area and let it sit for 30 minutes where it will double or triple in size. While our dough is proofing, this gives us enough time to grease our loaf pans. Here I have a half a tablespoon of butter in each loaf pan. Here I'm just using a paper towel so I would not get my hands messy with the butter. You want to make sure and coat that butter all over that loaf pan. Now we're going to lightly flour the pan, and this will help to prevent the bread from sticking. Well, our bread pans are all greased and lightly dusted with flour, so it's now time to check on our dough. So folks, after half an hour, here you can see our dough has tripled in size, and that's a good sign. Now the camera girl wants to take a poke at the dough. Here I'm just punching it down to make sure and deflate all those air bubbles in the dough. All you want to do is lightly sprinkle some flour on the counter, and after doing that you want to place your dough on there. The flour will help to prevent the dough from sticking. And you can also lightly sprinkle the dough with a bit of flour, and that will make it much easier to handle. Now I'm just forming the dough into a log, and then I'm going to take my pastry cutter and divide that dough into half, or as evenly as possible. Now you want to take each of the dough individually and form them into a ball and set them aside and get ready to move on to the next step. When you have formed the dough into 2 balls, you want to preheat your oven at 315 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to lightly coat your rolling pin with a bit of flour, and this will help to prevent it from sticking when rolling out the dough. When rolling out the dough, you want to roll it to about 10 inches in diameter and a little less than ½ inch in thickness. And remember folks, I am by no means a professional baker. After you have finished rolling out the dough, you want to take one end and gently start rolling it up to the other end to form that loaf. After you have done this, you want to tuck in both ends and try to make your loaf as neat as possible. When you have done this, you want to gently take your dough and place it seam side down into your loaf pan. So this is simple enough to do, so I won't bore you guys in doing the next one. I'll bring you guys back when we're ready to place it into the other loaf pan. And in the miracle of time, our loaf is ready to be placed into our bread pan, and remember to place it seam side down. Now that our loaves are down in our bread pan, it's time to cover them over once again, and we're going to let that proof for another ½ an hour or until they double in size. And in ½ an hour's time, here are our loaves which has doubled in size. Now I'm just going to take a bit of melted butter and brush them on the both loaves before we get them ready to bake in the oven. After doing this, you want to place it into the oven, let that bake for about 35 to 40 minutes or until golden brown. And in the miracle of time, 40 minutes has gone by, and here are our 2 loaves of bread, and they are looking mighty fine. After you have taken the bread out of the oven, you want to lightly brush on some of that melted butter once again. This will give it a lovely sheen and also add some flavor. When you have finished applying the butter, you want to let the bread cool for about 10 minutes before removing it from the pan. And remember folks, I will have the full recipe written down in the description box below. Well, now that 10 minutes has gone by, let's take the bread out of the pan and see what we have. And here you can see we have gotten a light golden brown through and through. And this is what we are looking for. So I say it's time to cut this bread and see what we have on the inside. And there you can see it is looking nice and soft and fluffy. And this is what we are looking for. So we will get this all plated up on our board and get ready for a drive-by. Let's go!
And here it is, boys and girls, our delicious homemade bread, and it was so tasty. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the post notifications for more videos. See you all on our next cooking journey, and we're out until next time.